The right question is a few questions down the road. Point to note, do not avoid your disappointments. Face them head on, and when they come, be disappointed.
Yes.
As to how to think about disappointment within a team, an organization.
It says that the uncreative mind can spot the wrong answer, but it takes a creative mind to spot the wrong question.
Even our behavioral processes are not entirely controlled by us. And when we're faced with disappointment, it kind of reminds us that those processes, while we play a role in it, we are not all that is within the process. I needed you in this time and you weren't there. Now, I had to sort of learn that in our relationship, we are going to feel disappointed at times. In every relationship. But how do we create that room for it? How do we manage ourselves to make that facilitation? Hi, good evening and welcome again. Welcome to the Unlearn Show with Jamie and Fritz, the show where we undefine, unlimit, unlearn, and rethink our behaviors, our thought processes, previously held notions, ideas, structures that we considered or held closely that may need to be rethought or rethink. We want to first unlearn them. This is the Unlearn Show. And thanks for being with us. We're here with Dr. Fritz Pinnock. Dr. Pinnock, how are you doing, sir?
Jamie, Fritz, I'm good.
Man, I think it's such a blessing to be back. We're having these discussions. We took a break a few weeks, and now we're back, refreshed, well researched, and we're back having our weekly chat. Yes. I've missed you, sir. How are you?
I miss you too, and congratulations on new baby Selena.
And new baby Selena is here.
Yes.
She's such a blessing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, today we would like to focus a bit on leaving room for disappointment. Leaving room for disappointment. We can look, or we'll try to examine a few mental models as to how to think about disappointment within a team, an organization, personal life. You've had your fair share of that, and just how to sort of manage the process of disappointment. Without further ado, sir, I keep referring to you as sir.
Yeah, let's get rid of that.
Let's rethink that, or you want me to unlearn that?
Yes, right away.
All right, unlearn. Control Alt Delete. So let's look a little bit on leaving room for disappointment. How do you think about that?
Oh, well, when you say that, my mind went to a strange point. Well, maybe not strange, but it goes to the frame of mind, either creative or uncreative. There's a little saying which I came across some time ago. I don't know, it just jumped back at me. It says that the uncreative mind can spot the wrong answer, but it takes a creative mind to spot the wrong question. So I'm seeing sometimes we start with questions and sometimes we are seeking for answers. But when we can reframe a situation to put a bigger question, we can get a different answer than when we're looking for an answer in a limited question. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I don't know why I go there.
No, I like that idea. It's Einstein who said that if he had an hour to solve the problems of humanity, he would spend 55 minutes trying to find the right question and 5 minutes solving it.
Right.
We oftentimes hear that there's no bad questions, but that's garbage.
Yes.
It's garbage in the fact that there are questions that need work. If in finding what you want to find, or arriving where you want to arrive, or solving the problems that you want to solve. How do you think about that?
I agree with you, because questions, the type of question you ask, can lead you to greater investigation or actually close the road where you're walking. Because it is the questions that we ask that lead us into processes that allow us to discover new things.
Mm.
But if we are looking for use simple questions, we get simple answers. That's how multiple choice come around. But if we ask deep questions, they lead to other questions that lead to other questions. And that process can take us on a journey that we can end up somewhere where we could not define.
Right.
Bless you.
Wow, a sneeze.
Yes.
Undefined. If we're able to define the endpoint clearly or with real precision, then that's not where we want to end up.
Yes.
Which begs the question that if we start off with the precise or exact question, then maybe that's not the right question.
That's correct. It's too narrow.
It's too narrow. It's a few questions down the road.
Yes.
The right question. Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
Let's unlearn and relearn something. The right question is a few questions down the road.
That's correct. And that's profound.
Disappointment. What's your view on disappointment within a team? How do you manage it?
Wow. Disappointment is key to keeping someone grounded, keeping us in tune with the fact that we do not control the process. Disappointment, because many times we plan an outcome rather than work with the process where outcome changes. And it takes me back, Jamie, to Ecclesiastes chapter 3 in the Bible. It talks about 14 seasons, 14 pairs of seasons, which are 28 seasons in total. It talks about a time to be born and a time to die. And it lists opposites. So life takes us through those seasons. And that's the reality. We like to stay with the 14 positive. But the negatives are also important in that they help us to appreciate the next positive. So disappointments, they are part of the journey. They are necessary. But they're hard to take. But when we can look and see that disappointments are part of what brings us into our destiny. Disappointments lead us to, as it were, overcome. Well, out of disappointments, we learn our vulnerability. Out of disappointments and what we term failures, we develop flexibility and adaptability, which are important in how to pivot in life. Right. You go ahead. Let me hear you.
I like the first point that you mentioned, where you said that disappointment keeps us grounded. It allows us to understand that the process that we are going through, the process of building a team, the process of a relationship, even our behavioral processes are not entirely controlled by us. And when we're faced with disappointment, it kind of reminds us that those processes, while we play a role in it, we are not all that is within the process. Or our behaviors are not all that is contributing to the process. Hence, we are faced with disappointment. That's one. Two, disappointment requires us to look ahead. If we're ever going to be able to manage disappointments, like you mentioned, the seasons, it helps us to appreciate the next season. However, unless we are able to move ourselves into the future and to have that ability to transition our minds from the present and delay that gratification into the future, then we won't be able to manage disappointments. So disappointments are best managed by visionaries.
Yes.
Not with sight, but with vision do you manage disappointment.
Yes.
Within a team, if you're disappointed within a team, and let's say that you have a team member and you're working on a project together, and you're faced with disappointment, letdown, a complete shutout, and you're feeling really disappointed in the person or in the person's actions. How do you go about resolving that?
That's a very good question. And as human beings, we're emotional beings. And I'm just thinking that if there are 3 members in that team, maybe you react differently with each of them depending on the relationship that you have. But the first thing when disappointment comes is to be goal-oriented, because disappointments sometimes are like a pothole in a road. When you hit a pothole, it can swing in a direction, which maybe take you off course. So it's always important to place the big picture in mind, because disappointments bring hurts, they bring pain, they bring different emotions that can distract you from the overall process. So while you process disappointment, it's always good to put it in a bigger perspective, because many times we like to plan life and exclude disappointments. But we had this discussion where we started. When Jesus, in selecting his team, he placed so-called enemies on his team. Because one of the significant person he placed on his team was Judas. And he put Judas in charge of the money. He had an executive position.
Right.
But Judas was so important to Jesus fulfilling his mission. It's easy sometimes to plan a sweet spot, but that sweet spot is only a pit stop in the journey and can take us off destination course. In that Judas was so important to Jesus, accomplishing his mission. When Judas came to kiss him, he said, "Friend, do what you must do." Because Jesus appreciated it was a part of the process. And he knew, and yet still he was teaching us through his example that we have to embrace our Judas. We have to see our Judas in a bigger picture, that they are important for our destination. Because many times we like to kill the Judas or get rid of them. And when we do that, it's tantamount to aborting our purpose and our mission. So the painful part of the process in that carries the greatest learning at times. That's the part that keeps us humble. That's the part that keeps us grounded. That's the part that reminds us that the whole process is bigger than us. Which, if we go back to the Bible, said all things work together for good.
For the good.
That all things mean the disappointment.
I am just kind of thinking of the team of disciples that Jesus chose.
Yes.
And he chose Judas, one that would betray him. He chose Peter, one that would deny him. He chose Thomas, one that would doubt him. He chose, and I mean, just if we could focus on those three for the moment, leaving room for disappointment in every relationship that we are involved in, whether it's you and I relationship. All right, let me tell you the story. I remember when we started the talks, right? And you and I, we were having regular talks, but then a lot of things was happening on your end, and you had to push them back, right? I felt disappointed, right? I felt hurt because of the value that I place on our discussions. Now, I had to sit down within myself and remind myself that how I'm feeling now is only a small fraction of what the ultimate process of what we're doing is. And it is until I was able to ground myself, approach you and to say, look, Fritz, I felt disappointed when you weren't able to show up for me. I needed you in this time and you weren't there. Now, I had to sort of learn that in our relationship, we are going to feel disappointed at times. In every relationship. But how do we create that room for it? How do we manage ourselves to make that facilitation for that disappointment when it comes? Because it's not a matter of if, it's when it comes. Even our most beloved disappoint us. The only person that probably won't disappoint us is Jesus. Right? But every human being that we are involved with, or whether it's an organization, human being, whatever it is, they will disappoint us if the relationship is long enough. How do we leave that room? How do we create that mental space for that disappointment when it comes?
And that's very deep, Jamie. As you rightly said, just go back. And I'm happy to use that example. It's so profound and it's so timely and apt. You talk about between Judas' betrayal, Peter's denial, and Thomas doubting. Between those three, we get a mix of different emotions that we have to manage, but yet keep the big picture. Jesus did not treat Judas any less. He washed his feet and wiped it just the same, because the part of the process was important. With Peter, when he asked Peter 3 times, "Lovest these more than me?" Asked Peter if he loved him. Peter said, "Yes, Lord, you know everything." And Jesus is able to tell him, before the cock rooster crows 3 times, you'll deny me. Before the rooster crows 3 times, you'll deny me 3 times. Then for Thomas, he looked beyond the doubt and asked Thomas to put his hands in his side. It takes a different level. It's not something easy. It goes beyond the human spirit. It goes beyond the human soul to get into this deeper level, which is beyond our natural feelings, how to manage these. But it's such an important space that if we can manage these appropriately, because many of us abort our purpose by not properly reacting or managing the betrayal, the denial, and the doubting.
Wow, I'm stunned by that. And again, this is wonderful. What's coming out for me is that first thing is that Jesus approached the disappointment head on.
Yes.
Never run, never try and hide, never try and sidetrack it or push it to the side.
Yes.
He approached the disappointment head on.
Head on.
It is important that when the disappointment comes, that we are disappointed.
Wow. I love that.
Because it is within that feeling, that emotion, that disappointed space that it fuels us to the next level.
Wow.
Right? For example, when Jesus and Peter and the denial, right? Jesus gave Peter the chance to deny him. So for example, he could have completely said to Peter before, from the first up, right? Say to Peter, this is what's going to happen, right? They're going to ask you and you're going to tell them that, he could have sort of avoided that disappointment. Point to note, do not avoid your disappointments.
Wow, that's deep, Jamie. And that is the lesson. Yes. Do not avoid. Wow.
Do not avoid your disappointments. Face them head on. And when they come, be disappointed.
Yes.
Now, it is when you are able to, and I'm reflecting on how I felt.
Yes.
When I was by myself after we weren't having our calls for various reasons, and I felt truly disappointed and hurt. And I remember sitting in this very chair and sort of reflecting. No, I had to tell you. I remember how I felt during the process, while reflecting, and after we had our conversation.
Wow. Yes.
No, let me say this. When during the process I was disappointed because I truly care and I know I care about our relationship. While reflecting, I was reminded that it's not all about me. How you behave in this partnership or this relationship truly affects me. Therefore, if I should invert that, how I behave truly affects you.
Yes.
Because I understand that we share this relationship together.
Yes.
So it is within that disappointment that I understood that my love had to be greater for you.
Wow. Wow.
So
wow.
I learned within that if I am feeling like this, I never want you to feel like this. Therefore, I had to be a better person. Therefore, I got one up within that. I had to level up even within that disappointment.
Jamie, that is profound, and that is a lesson that Jesus wanted to teach us out of these experiences that many times we miss, because we walk away with the eye perspective that we miss the bigger picture. And what you're saying, Jamie, about that leveling up was reflecting on what Joseph did when his brothers even let him down. If he did not take that position, he would not have been victorious and would not have achieved to fulfill his destiny. And that is so important, Jamie, that when Jesus asked, you said, leave room for disappointment and face it head on. You're onto something big, Jamie. Continue. I like the explanation.
No, and I mean, this is coming from your thoughts recently. I mean, then after we spoke,
yes,
and I remember we had that discussion where I expressed to you, I am really disappointed. This is important for me. And I remember you sort of acknowledging,
yes,
that you have disappointed me, and that this is what we would do to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Or when it happens again, we would be able to sort of manage it in a better way.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, we are stronger because of those. And we've had a lot of different situations like that. But those are the situations where when we manage it properly, when we're able to kind of walk step by step through the process.
Yes.
And look also beyond ourselves.
Yes.
Even within our teams at work or relationships at home, we're able to walk out of that with a lot of lessons learned and takeaways.
Wow.
And I think that's great. I mean, that's something that I truly value.
Yes.
Those lessons and takeaways.
Very deep, Jamie. Very profound.
Yes. How I want to ask you this question. And I'm thinking of how best to phrase the question. Right? When you are planning a team or you're building a team, what are some of the attributes that you look for within personnel?
Very good. One of the first things I usually do is to look for skill sets that I don't possess. I know my weaknesses in many ways, and I look for people who are stronger than I am. That the story of the turtle and the hare. When the turtle realized he could challenge the hare for a race, but it had to be a different race. He would have to use his areas of competence to change the playing field. He could not race the hare on flat land. He'd have to take the hare through water where the hare cannot manage. And out of that little analogy, at the end where they became good friends and decided to run as a team, they would take the lead depending on who had the strongest point at that time. When they reached the water, the turtle would allow the hare to come on its back. When they go on the land, the turtle would go on the hare's back. And they realized that together they were stronger as a team, because the more time passes, the more I realize that I have more weaknesses than strengths.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That's something that we should all recognize and learn. And we can ring the bell for that one. Ding, 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 ding. As time goes by, we realize that we have more weaknesses than strength. Wow, yes. That's profound, actually. Something to always keep in mind.
So a team is very important because you're able to combine the strengths of each other, which it requires greater humility to step back and say, on this leg of the relay, you're better. But together we're a team. And don't think that I am going to be the one who have to run all the legs. And many a times, the more I learn and I'm learning, is that my greatest strength is to be a cheerleader. So I can run a better race on the sidelines.
I am good at carrying water.
I can run a better race on the sidelines. You know, so, and that is a part that connects the team together, the cheerleading. That is a part many times we don't see as a role, but it's so important. When you can step back and connect the strengths of each other, that is a part of strategy. To go on the track and to be physically running. If you step back, you may run a better race by not going on the track. I'm not sure if I'm coming through.
No, that's you make a great point. Understanding our circle of competence.
Yes, that's a good summary.
You know, and we are competent and where we're not.
Yes.
You know, life is a continuous journey of learning and unlearning and relearning and rethinking.
Yes.
And you know, I just you know, going through the motions of trying to learn as much as we can, or just to keep learning things deeper. You kind of realize that you'll never really learn the vast majority of what is out there to be learned, but what you will hopefully learn is get a better idea of what you are competent in and where that circle lies, and to kind of realize that your circle is smaller than what you actually think.
Wow, Jamie, and that is profound. That is profound. Continue.
It's sort of the goal is to sort of be able to define with fair amount of accuracy your circle of competence. That is what a learned or a learning mind is. Understanding what they don't understand, you know, to apply that principle, that mental model to learning. So it is sort of going after knowing not what you know, but what you don't know. You know, so to be able to recognize that if you want to think about it from that person, using the inversion principle.
Wow. Jamie, that is deep, you know, because let's go back to a relay. Many times we see a relay, we see the runners. But in managing a relay, it's not necessarily about the runners, about the baton.
Right. Absolutely.
What wins a relay is the baton. You can have the fastest runners, but if they don't go through that tape with the baton, they are failed.
Right.
So one of the inversion, to invert the principle, focus on the baton, not the runners.
Interesting. You know, I would say though that there are moments in time where, and let's use the Jamaican track and field team, right? We have never been the best changers of the baton.
Yes.
Never been. I mean, it's always, I think, you know, the Chinese, the Japanese, the because our athletes tend to be different height. So you realize that the height disparity, they don't really exchange the baton well. The women are better than the men. But you found that when our runners were so strong, the male, when with Usain Bolt, Johan Blake, Asafa Powell, Nesta Carter, these guys, the team was so strong that unless they blundered completely, they would win the races. Lesson from that is, you may win temporarily with a strong team, mismanaging the baton. But no, when Usain has retired, Johan is not so strong anymore, Asafa has retired, we are finding it very, very important to manage that baton.
Yes.
But if you're going to win long term, we have to get the processes right.
Yes.
And our behaviors need to be in line. Because while a strong member of the team can pull the entire team for so long, you find that you'll not have great success over time with that approach.
Yes.
So it's really interesting to kind of to look at it as to how success can be misleading, and what real success is, if you want to define it, is success over time. It's it's not success in time, it's just over time, right? So it's over a long period of time. I want to come back though to the turtle and the turtle and the hare.
Yes, or the rabbit, whichever.
Yeah, or the rabbit. And the funny thing though is it's a strategy involved with the turtle. You don't need much water. The turtle don't need much water to win that race. 10% of the field, the playing ground, the track can be deep water, and the turtle would win the race.
Yes. Yes.
So the turtle can say, look, you will destroy me for 90% of the race, but I just want this 10% to be water. And the turtle would probably win the race.
Yes. Yes.
Because the rabbit can't swim. So there's something to say about that idea of, sort of deferring or giving people, you go ahead, you run, you take off fast, you have the victory for now, but that delayed gratification, there's something to say about that. How did that, how do you view that within a team and the success of a team?
Yes, very good point. Delayed gratification. Because when we can see ourselves that we don't possess all the competence, in a team is best with situational leadership. You allow the person with the strongest competence for that portion of the race to take charge. So the turtle can be the leader, despite being in charge of only 10% of the race. But it's to know when to make that switch, when to say you are better at this, as you said, the 90%. And the 10%, I'll put in my 10%, but together we have the, I'm sorry, just a moment. Hey, Karen, can I call you back? Just doing a podcast. Call you right back here. Call you back when I finish. Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's an interesting point. But many times what comes with it is that people feel that I may be termed the leader. I feel I have to do the 90%, despite I have only 10% of the course that we are racing on.
Right.
And it changes from race to race because it depends on the situation of the race and not on the position that you think I'm the leader, so I have to do the more. I have the option just to do the, but because I'm the leader, I'm going to do it. It's to know that, hey, I need to step back.
It's such a wonderful evening to have this discussion. I want to thank you for staying with us on that note. As we sort of recap the highlights from today, we have realized that leaving room for disappointment or disappointments are extremely important. Being able to face them head on, manage our own emotions, be disappointed when the disappointment comes. Examine and reflect on that disappointment. Use that disappointment to remove ourselves and to think about the process or the team and level up within the disappointment. But don't forget to communicate that. Don't forget to communicate it after. It's disappointments that keeps us grounded. Like Fritz said, it's disappointments that prepares us for the next step, the next leg, and help us to appreciate the next leg or the next step. We want to thank you for being with us and what we have learned and unlearned today. Please rethink it throughout the week. As we say, thanks for being with Jamie and Fritz on the Unlearn Show. Have a good one and blessings.